The following is a conversation with Sabeen Marghoob, also known as Henna by Sabeen, for the Brown Voices Be Inspired project.
Hi, how are you?
I am great. This feels very disingenuous because we already did all this, but
It's okay.
I'm Panitha Rice, and I'm the writer researcher behind Brown Voices South Asian American Experiences in Schools, which is re releasing this fall 2026. I'm here with Sabeen Marghoob, a henna artist, a social media content creator, and most recently, a tattoo apprentice at Vacation Forever Tattoo. Her henna has been featured in Vogue, Allure, and Elle magazines. She designed and did the henna for actress Lupita Nyong'o's head for the 2023 premiere of Mira Nair's musical Monsoon Wedding. Sabine has more than 23,000 combined followers on her TikTok and Instagram and is saved in just about everyone's Mendy inspiration screenshots folder in their phones, including mine. Sabine, welcome and thank you for being here for the Brown Voices Be Inspired project.
Thank you so much for having me and for the beautiful intro.
Sabine, your Mendy henna art is beloved online. How did you get into henna?
I got into henna honestly per chance. I've always done it. When I was a kid I did it. I love getting mehendi done for Eid, for weddings. In the pandemic, I was working my normal corporate job. At the time I was actually working for New York City, and there wasn't really any way for me to actually do my work for the city while I was working from home in lockdown. I was really bored, and I picked up a henna cone from the Curry Hill area around 23rd Street in Lexington, and I don't know, I just kept doing it. It wasn't like a conscious decision. It wasn't something that I was like, okay, I'm going to become a henna artist now. I just kept doing it. I think I was kind of just going stir crazy, honestly. And then I posted like one design. I look back now and I'm like, these designs were, in my opinion, horrible. But I had just like some, I envy it now. But I had some sort of like delusional confidence in my henna designs, and I just started posting. Like without, I was just like everything I did, I posted. Everything is still up. I've never taken anything down. After the pandemic, when things started opening up a little bit, there were so many weddings that had been postponed, like just a backlog of weddings that people were just desperate to have some sort of celebration. So there were just so many wedding events, Fridays and Saturdays in the city. So I would like be in Astoria doing henna, and then I would get a call being like, we need an extra artist, and the event would be like down the road. I would work from like 6 p.m. to like 2 a.m. It's slowed down now, but I think that momentum really, it allowed me to just like keep building and just keep working and, getting a ton of practice.
And that's like why you're so good now because you were just nonstop.
Thank you. Yeah, it was like nonstop, and it's something that I'm trying to just do in tattooing as well. It's harder with tattooing because obviously if I mess up in henna, I don't feel as guilty as I would in a tattoo. But for henna, I just kept, it was like kind of insane how much I was doing it.
And I mean, they do say like mastery of something requires so many hours of time spent on it.
Yeah, I think they say like, I don't know if it's a real number, but 10,000 hours. I don't know if I've done 10,000 hours. I maybe at this point I have. I've been doing it since I guess 2019, so
You probably have. You have officially mastered henna artistry.
but you never feel like you fully mastered it. It's like with art, it's a practice. You constantly want to get better. For henna, it's really unique as well because you have to make your own medium. I don't think there's a lot of art where you don't have to, but for me and most henna artists, they want to make the paste themselves. So that's something that I'm constantly learning as well, and definitely not my favorite part of being a henna artist.
So you don't want to be making your own supplies.
It's just a pain, and there's a lot of like variables. Like the weather is one of the variables in making henna. So if it's humid outside, you want to add less sugar to your paste, for example, because the sugar pulls a lot of water into the henna. So if it's humid and the bride is doing a session outdoors and it's the summer, the paste will just become really watery and then like become a big mess. But if it's winter or they're blasting the AC, then you want to have, you know, you change the pace based on like the weather itself. So that's like kind of crazy making.
So it's like not just a science, even the act of making the supplies is an art. Like there's artistry at every step of the way.
Yeah, I think henna is pretty unique in that way. I do make my own paste, but sometimes I do buy from friends. I have a couple of friends who are just like they make like, the perfect paste every time, and sometimes I just cannot be bothered. Or I make a batch and it's like I'm just like I can't work with this. So, but yeah.
Okay, so I have a question for you it's a little bit of a deviation. Because the work you're doing with your henna business, and it's a full-on business, right? You're running it like a
Yeah.
proper business. How do you balance that with your day job? Because you also have a full-time day job.
Yeah, I do. I've been working since I was 20, I mean 22, 23 in like financial services. I do like compliance. It's not that exciting, but it's good. It pays the bills. And the only reason that I can do everything that I'm doing with my day job is because I kind of took a step back. I do a consulting role now. So I work from home. I kind of took a step back from climbing the corporate ladder. I did do it in my early and then like into my late 20s. I became like a manager and I was like managing a team and I was like, oh my God, like it was like everything that I thought I wanted in college, and I was not happy. I was like miserable. It was so much work. I worked every weekend, I worked evenings. I found it very difficult to be there for my team and to manage and coach when like my heart wasn't in it. So I just basically made the decision that like I can still be in this industry. I've built up enough years to be and work in this industry, but maybe I don't have to be at the very top like I thought I wanted to be. And I guess henna kind of like at the same time without realizing it, art and henna kind of crept back into my life in a way that I was like, okay, what if I did give this a real shot? So now I'm giving both a real shot. I'm still working full time. I work 40 hours a week, but I can manage my own hours a little bit better. My VPN is on all the time. I can log in on the weekends and do a little bit of work, and my boss is really flexible in that way. So that's the only reason I could do it. If I was in the office or if I was like high up at some bank, I could not do this.
That's like such a perfect segue because one of the questions I wanted to ask is what does success look like for you? But it sounds like you've already had to redefine it for yourself multiple times. What you described you were doing pre-pandemic, climbing that corporate ladder. I think that's the version of success that in our communities in South Asian communities, our parents' generations, like that's their version of success. You give me your thoughts.
That's why I
Tell me
was so
about that.
intrigued by the work that you're doing because I feel like we're taught these ideas of what is success, and I was very much, you know, honed into that. I did economics at college. I did the banking internship junior year so that I had my banking job set up for me for senior year graduation. I started working 2 weeks after I graduated. And I don't regret any of that. I'm really grateful that I have it and I can always go back to it if AI doesn't take over my job. But I'm really grateful I can go back to it. And I'm really grateful it's given me like a financial safety net to fall back on. But no, I've had to, it was really jarring to get to that like AVP, assistant vice president role and then be like, oh my God, I hate my job and I hate my life. It's like, and then you see your manager, like your even higher up managers, and you're like, you don't look happy. And I don't even want to do what you do. Like if I work weekends, you're working like all-nighters for banking, which to me was insane. So, yeah, I've always done something creative on the side. It's always been an outlet for me. When I was growing up, I played music. In college, I played music. Again, yeah, I played a lot of music in college. And then afterwards, I tried to work in fashion on the side. I've always tried to do something, and my parents were very much like, always have your professional job and you can do whatever you want on the side, whatever you want. They were really encouraging of that. They were very encouraging of my like creative pursuits, but I think now success to me is feeling comfortable, feeling secure in my life, but also pursuing and growing my art. Like my art is by far the most important thing to me, and my job is very much just a means to an end.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, we would just have universal basic income and no one would have to have a day job, I think. It's wild because I do think there's been this weird, like, swinging pendulum where there was definitely this expectation that success looks a certain way, Desi families in particular, that you should, be a doctor, be an engineer, be a lawyer, be a whatever. And it sounds like you're saying you can have a happy medium. You can do both. Ideally, you have that financial cushion, you have some flexibility and some comfort and some landing cushion, and then you're able to also pursue the creative stuff on the
Yeah,
side.
I would hope so. I do think my situation is pretty unique. I think it, the small area in banking in which I work is more conducive to having this like consultant role. That being said, I think as time goes on, I think there's a lot more like gig and consulting roles available in these professional spaces. So I think it can be done. I think when I meet younger people now, I'm in my 30s. So like when I meet kids coming out of college and stuff and they ask for advice and stuff, all I say is like do your job, do what you need to do to feel financially okay because the world is tough and it's very expensive. But spend a couple of hours, if not a day, then like a week, just building something for yourself. Like whatever it may be, whatever your dream is, if you want to be an actor, just go do auditions, go take some classes. If you want to be a musician, spend the money, go take music classes, you know? I don't know how sustainable what I'm doing is right now. You know, I have a lot of DMs unread and I wish I could spend a lot more time, especially tattooing. I wish I could spend hours, building up my tattoo skills. But for now, and for the last few years, it's been working.
And it's always in flux, right? Like the pushes and pulls on your time are going to keep changing. And it sounds also like we kind of talked around this, but in defining success, you also sort of addressed what makes a life meaningful.
Success to me is what makes life meaningful. I don't know. Like it's the same thing. I guess for me, again, when I was in that AVP role and I had this big team and I was like, everyone was like, wow, you have this team. I was like, well, I hate this. And this, like, if I die tomorrow, and I had a therapist actually who was like, if you were to die tomorrow, like, what would you do for the rest of the day? And we listed out all the things. And I was like, I would create art. I would spend time with my friends and family. I would eat a lovely, beautiful meal that I've cooked, And I think that was really eye-opening to me where I was like, okay, if I die tomorrow, if I die in a year, I want to make sure that I did not just spend my whole life, in banking or in something that I didn't want to do per se and didn't, bring meaning to me. And now I feel like with the art, my job actually has way more meaning because I'm like, oh, every day when I log in, I'm like, I know I am doing this. I'm doing this so that I can do everything else.
That's such a healthy reframe. I think there's this like weird misconception that if your day job doesn't bring you fulfillment and joy and meaning and whatever, you're in the wrong line of work. And it's like, well, no, because you got to pay the bills.
Yeah, until we have universal basic income. Yeah.
Basic income.
Yeah, I know.
The model minority myth exists. It affects a lot of people from South Asian backgrounds. It's the stereotype that Asian students are uniformly high achieving, smart, hard workers, tend to excel in math and science, don't really need help from teachers. And it's a stereotype that infects Asian American kids, regardless of whether it feels like it fits or not. How did that show up for you in your life, for better or worse, whether it was pressure from your parents, from teachers, what have you? How did it
So
show up?
I think there was definitely a lot of pressure. I think it was more, I was talking to my parents about this actually recently. I was like, I think there was an unspoken pressure. It was like, they weren't hounding me or my brother. I have a younger brother as well. But it was definitely like, there was no other option but to get really good grades. Like there was no question about it, So we were both very, very into our studies, very hardworking. I definitely wasn't like the top of my class, not without trying. I was trying. I was trying to be, but I did all the all the APs, whatever you call it, all the extracurriculars. My parents were like, they learn in America at least that you should be well rounded when you're when you're applying to college. So my brother and I were like playing tennis, good grades. We both played music. He was part of like these like math, accelerated math program, all the things, all the things. So, and then we also just inherently went to like I grew up in Long Island, so actually a pretty diverse school, and it was a pretty competitive public school. So some of my high school friends and I actually joke that the hardest time in our life was actually high school. And I kind of hold, like in terms of the amount of work that we were doing, um, I kind of still believe that. Honestly, nothing has been as hard as high school to me. So, but maybe I was young. Maybe I was like a kid, and like it was just a lot at that time. But I did economics. I had no idea what I wanted to do in college. I think I took a couple of like biology courses. I was like, I'll be a doctor, and then I didn't really like school that much. So I was like, that's a lot of school to become a doctor if my heart's not in it. So I did economics. I was like, I can do business, finance, whatever. I did want to work in fashion or something like creative business related, but none of the internships paid any money. So I just did the highest paying internship, which was banking. And I got the return offer, and I just stayed there I stayed in the industry for now 10, 11 years.
And if you did end up going into fashion and you had stayed there, like, you would have been getting maybe some, emotional fulfillment, some creative fulfillment out of your job, but you'd still be climbing that corporate route. And I also wonder if that sucks some of the joy out of it when you're expecting your passion to pay your
I
bills
think it
too.
does for my
Um,
friends who are at least in who are artists. Like every time I talk to my friends who are artists, I'm like, I'm gonna quit my job and become an artist. They're like, don't do it. Don't. So everyone's like, don't do this. And also, I think creative work has always been my outlet. So the idea of doing it full time and it being the moneymaker is, I don't know. It's a weird mind shift change.
it takes this thing that's passion driven for you and turns it into a thing that sustains my lifestyle and sustains my ability to pay my bills. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of pressure for
Yeah. I completely agree.
a thing you love. So I have two really important questions I want to ask. If you were talking to brown kids today, South Asian American kids in schools right now, who are feeling like they want to live a creative life, what would you want them to know?
I would say that you can, I mean, first of all, it's possible. You can always do it. I would just say that two things can be true at once. You can, pursue the things that pay the bills at the same time as pursuing your creativity. I think when you're young, because I think a lot about when I was young and, there was so much pressure. I don't know, there was so much pressure in college. There's so much pressure when you're like in high school or 8 or 9 and you're like, what is the one thing I'm gonna be? And you don't have to be one thing. You can, like, life is really short and long at the same time. Like I'm 32 and I feel like I've had like four different careers, and like I don't even know what else I want to do. There's so many things I still want to do. So I think especially when you're in college, you just feel like you have to pick the one thing, and you have all of your 20s, inshallah. You have all of your 30. Like you have time to figure it out, experiment, and then I'd say just whatever you do choose, work really hard at it. Just give it your all. Like give things a chance. Don't give up. Like just even if you give it that little bit every single day, that little bit of consistency can just go such a long way. Again, I didn't choose to do henna as an artist. I just kept doing it without really thinking about it. So um, yeah, every time I meet younger people, they look like there's like this like weight of the world on them. My cousin just graduated college and I was like, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna find a job and you're gonna find other things to do, and there's like so many things you can do, and and she just looks so sad. Like it like really breaks my heart.
Like, you don't have to have it all figured out. You've got all these years ahead of you to make so many mistakes and take so many wrong turns. Like, you'll be
Yeah,
fine.
definitely, definitely.
You have found that balance because you've got the job that pays the bills. You're pursuing a passion. You're very much appreciated for it by the wider world. Your work is inspiring so many people to like go and get something done on their hands based on something you've created. You're the perfect example of someone who's a role model to young brown kids
Thank
right
you
now.
so much.
You're doing
That's
it.
so kind.
So one more question for you. The teachers of young brown kids today, what do you wish those educators of South Asian American kids knew about their students?
I wish they knew that they were also struggling as much as all the other kids. And just because they're working all night, that doesn't mean that they don't need that extra help, um, or that extra push, or just like someone telling them that they, believe in them, or, you know, are just there for them. I'm trying to think back to my own time in high school because I did go to a very diverse school with a lot of South Asian and Asian students who were, very very high achieving, and it was just a lot of pressure. Just a helping hand would be helpful, or just like an extra show of support, or someone just saying like, oh, you're like really proud of them. you know for I think back to like all my
Yeah.
like AP physics classes where like I could not do AP physics. I could not do physics yet. I still did. I could manage to pass these classes. And it would just been nice to know that like that was, I did my best even for those kids in those classes. It's just like they're doing their best and they're working really hard. I don't know if that's a good answer, but yeah.
That's a great answer. And you talked a little bit about pressure earlier too. And the funny thing that happens with the model minority myth is there's a lot of brown kids who, let's say, have special needs. Let's say are struggling with anxiety. Let's say have a learning disability. Let's say are just not at the top of their class. Those kids get overlooked because the teachers perceive them as, oh, they're brown kids or Asian kids, they'll be fine. So it sucks for them. But then the other insidious side of it is the side you've experienced firsthand as, a high achieving South Asian kid. Even the kids who seem to like fit the model minority myth are under so much pressure. And I don't know that it's healthy for, you said, high school being the hardest time in your life. You were a
Yeah.
kid.
Again, like I don't know if that was exacerbated by the fact that I was a child. So like, things feel so much stronger when you're a kid, but it was so much pressure. And now I look back and I'm like, on one hand, I'm so grateful for the work ethic that was instilled into me by like various forces, spoken and unspoken. But on the other hand, I was just like, was that worth it? I don't think so.
It's a lot to put on a
Yeah.
child. I think a lot about this now because I've got kids, and I think about how I don't want to put that pressure on them. Um, because I don't know if they're going to be fortified by the fires of pressure, I don't know if it's going to cause them to succeed in spite of that pressure, or if I can really attribute pressure to being the thing that's going to help them do well. Does
That
that make
totally makes
sense?
sense. And yeah, I don't have kids, but my husband and I think about having kids and we're like, how would we, raise our children? And obviously I don't have kids. So like I don't know what happens when you're actually with your children, but I have had to like even before that I'm like, let me unlearn a lot of the things that I've been taught in terms of like pressure or school. And some of my other friends are starting to have kids and you see like the different schooling, philosophies and all these things, and I'm like, oh my god, how do you like what I guess what do you teach? And I don't know how you do it.
Thank you so much, Sabine, for joining me here today, for your time, for sharing your story, sharing your life, for being a part of the Brown Voices Be Inspired project, and for being an inspiration to the next generation. And congratulations on all of your personal
Thank you
success.
so much for having me. I don't usually get to do stuff like this, so it was nice to just talk about my experience. And yeah, thank you for following along for so long, and just thank you so much.
This has been a conversation with Sabeen Marghoob for the Brown Voices Be Inspired project. Subscribe for more conversations like this one.